cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, that ball is close. He's given him. He's given him. Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday.
Welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 52 of the show. Today I'm joined by a lot of people, actually. I don't know if we've... Pilch, you're always on the show, mate. Have we ever been joined by three people? I actually can't remember. Maybe. But anyway, so we're joined by three lads. As I introduce them, today's topic is AFL. So as I introduce them, I'd like them to tell me what's been their favourite / what they think's been the highest quality game of the year. So Rowey, welcome back, mate. What are you thinking?
Thanks, Harris. Good to be here. My favourite game was pretty recent. It was Richmond Port. Don't go for either of the teams, but I just thought it was an awesome game, an awesome atmosphere, and a bit of a finals preview.
Yeah, I think that might be a common theme here. Broady, welcome back, mate.
Thanks for having me again, mates. I was going to say the same, Richmond and Port, but I'll throw in another one. It was a few weeks ago, West Coast played Geelong over in Perth, and Geelong had them for much of the game, but West Coast came back. That was a really good finals-like atmosphere as well.
Yeah. And Pilch, as you talked before, welcome back, mate, as always. What game made it for you?
Yeah, definitely the Power v Richmond game the other week. I'm still on a high from it. Still, I watched the highlights about 3 times a day still. So, yeah.
I heard that one. That was a popular one in our footy group chat. I think everyone was claiming that was game of the season. I haven't watched too much footy this year. Bit of a disclaimer for this episode. But I'm going Port Adelaide Carlton. I just think it had everything in it. It was just end to end. What was there like? There was something ridiculous in the first quarter, like, I don't know, 10 goals or something. And I think they kicked 8 straight before there was a behind. And then there was obviously the Robbie Gray after the siren goal from the pocket. Well, from an angle. But yeah, that was a pretty good game. Really enjoyed that one. So today, obviously the topic's AFL. We're going to be doing, it's a bit over halfway in the season, I believe. But we're doing a mid-season awards episode. So we've got a list of awards down here, some team related, some player related, and we're just going to roll through them. And, you know, it's just going to be a bit of a vehicle of conversation for this, what we've thought of the season so far. So I reckon we start with the team ones. So, Broady, we'll start with you. Which team has impressed you the most and which team has disappointed you the most?
The team that's impressed me the most is the Cats. I didn't have them as being... I thought that they might sneak into the finals, but their last few weeks have been really impressive. I mean, the big Tomahawk is firing on all cylinders. They've got a deep midfield, and I reckon this could be their year. They've been very good in home and away seasons, like the last 8-9 years, without doing much in finals. But this could be the year, and I think they're priming magnificently for a run at the flag.
All right, Rowey, what team have you enjoyed watching so far?
I was tempted to say Port. I have a feeling one of the other members on this group is going to say that. So I might pump up my own team here and say the Saints. Obviously, a few blokes had some high hopes for them. I wasn't as optimistic. I thought we'd finish a bit outside the 8, but they have so far defied my beliefs. We obviously changed a lot of our lineup, changed our game plan, and obviously changed our coach. Have a lot of more youthful players in the team now. And just think the way we've adapted to the whole game plan and just bringing in a lot of speed. And we've now like the first number 1 ranked team to play on from marks. Just that whole new game plan for switching from slow and steady to fast pace has really benefited us. We've adjusted a lot more quickly than I thought, and obviously results are showing. So I think we've adapted to our changes really well. I think that's why we're probably the most impressive.
Pilch, are you getting around your own boys here as expected, or?
Well, my expectations for my own team are always way too high, as you know, Hamish. Yeah. But if someone told me that we'd be top of the ladder 12 or 13 rounds into the season, I would have said they were dreaming. You can't ask for much more, and we've played some great footy. But the two I had written down were Port and the Saints. But yeah, I thought Rowey would say the Saints as well. So
Yeah, 100% agree with all the shouts so far. Probably a rogue one I'll add into the mix, Melbourne. I think I predicted them to come like 16th or something, and I know they were really good in 2018, and they were probably a lot below where they should have been last year. So you could argue this is just where they should be, but I think everyone was predicting them to be a lot worse this year than they are, and they're right in the mix for finals. So I think Melbourne fans will be pleasantly happy with their performance so far this year. In terms of disappointments, there's actually quite a few, to be honest. I'm going to throw one out there. I think it's the obvious one. Well, I don't know if it's the obvious one, actually, but Collingwood. I actually had them to win the minor premiership, and I think I actually also had them to win the grand final. And at this stage, I can't see, well, the minor premiership, that's obviously not happening, but I can't really see the premiership happening either. I think they sit just inside the 8 at the moment, but yeah, it's not been great for them. Lots of injuries, though, in their defence, but yeah, not ideal. Pilch, who's disappointed you?
well, obviously Adelaide, like people had them near the bottom, but I'm not sure if anyone really saw this coming before the season started. After the first few games, it was obvious they weren't going to win any games. But outside of them, I also had the Pies and also Hawthorn. I would have had Hawthorn around like pushing for the top 8 before the year, and I think they're 4-8 or 4-7. So they've definitely been a big disappointment as well.
Yeah, Broady.
I've gone the Giants. I think they've still got the most talented list in the competition, in my opinion. Made a granny last year, and I thought that they would bounce back hard this year with the the setback of last year. But they've been really disappointing again. They've moved the ball slowly. They're boring to watch, and I think their players, I'm going to say it, a bit selfish. It's all about me, and they've been a major disappointment in this season.
Yeah, no, rogue shout, but I rate it. Rowey.
Yeah, well, look, I had three selections down here, and that's all the 3 teams. So I'm a bit cornered here, but yeah, like Broady touched on, the first word I wrote next to those was selfish. Obviously, they're not really plagued by injuries, considering they have a really talented list and can back it up. And it's just the poor performances they put in, especially against Sydney, which we saw on the weekend, was just not good, especially for a grand final team last year. And then Adelaide, obviously, we all sort of expected what was going to happen, but they're just not even up to scratch. This is, obviously worse than a few of the Gold Coast seasons we've seen the past few years. And then obviously the Hawks, not a fan of Clarkson trying to go after another premiership. I just, if you're going to go after another premiership, you can't be sitting 16th on the ladder. He's got to face facts and rebuild. So I think just obviously Clarkson's a great coach, one of the greatest of all time, but his inability to face facts and go for a rebuild is really backfired here, and they're sitting 16th, and now they've lost Sicily, arguably their best player. So, yeah, pretty disappointing.
Yeah, I'll throw another one into the mix. Essendon, I reckon. I think you guys actually tipped them to come about where they're sitting right now, but I had them to come, I think, 5th. I thought this was going to be the year where it all clicked together. They have like a good mix of ages in their side, and I think they've been pretty bad. I don't know where they sit exactly, either 11th or 10th or something like that, but they've won a lot of close games against average teams, especially in the first 6 weeks. They were winning a lot of games within 2 goals, which they shouldn't have been. And I think they've really only performed to their full ability like a couple times this year. One comes to mind. I think they beat Collingwood by 20 points or something when Collingwood weren't as injury affected. But yeah, I think it's been pretty disappointing from them. And quite frankly, I'm sick of all Essendon fans most fans do this, but every Essendon fan just blaming the umpires every single game. Getting a bit sick of it. This one bloke from my cricket club just does not shut up. So that's probably another reason why I'm starting to grow a bit of disdain towards Essendon. But yeah. And now that's actually all we've got for the teams. I kind of acted like it was half team, half individual, but the rest of this is individual awards. So now we're going to talk about pickups. So best pickup and worst pickup. Broady, do you want to kick us off with who? Actually, before I start this, I want to say a random fact. Will Snelling and John Noble were both picked up in last year's mid-season draft from West Adelaide. Just thought that was pretty impressive for a Samful team to be possessing those two players. But yeah, anyway, Broady, who do you think has been the best pickup?
That's a very fun fact. Thanks, mate.
Yeah. No.
I've gone a little bit left field for the best pickup. I've gone Hugh Greenwood, who moved from Adelaide to the Suns. I wrote down here they gave up nothing for him. It was like a future third and future fourth round pick. And I know he's not great with his disposal use, but he's a big body in a young Suns side. I think he's leading the competition in tackles. I think that's right. And I just think he's been really consistent, a big body, and a really good pickup for the Gold Coast.
Rowey, what do you reckon?
Well, the past minute I've been trying to look around for a microphone I've got, but I was going to drop the mic, obviously Dan Butler. Going for absolutely dirt cheap from the Tigers. Apparently he's not as good as Castagna Rioli. I beg to differ. He is currently sitting, third in the Coleman. He's just completely revitalised our forward line. He's the most consistent small forward we've had since Milne. We've had the likes of Loney and Gresham. Gresham's obviously we tried to push him up the ground a bit. Loney's found himself in and out of the team. Dan Butler's been absolutely awesome for us. Just awesome pace, awesome tackling pressure. Well, obviously, he's won us the game a couple of times, most notably against the Suns. I also think from the Blues, Jack Martin's been pretty good, obviously, until he went down with injury. I think it was a solid pickup. Obviously, didn't have to trade to get him as well, but unlucky fella, he's sort of copped his salary because obviously his salary is a bit top-heavy this year for him, and then it's COVID has reduced that. So unlucky for him, but I think he was also a very good pickup.
Yeah. Pilch, any others you want to mention?
Well, actually, the two names I wrote down were Butler and Greenwood. So I think they've definitely been the best two. Butler's been an absolute gun, and Greenwood's one of the main reasons why Gold Coast clearance work is now right up there with some of the other good teams in the competition, as opposed to last year where they were just dead last. And
yeah,
both,
I don't know how
they're cheap as well.
Yeah. I don't know how Adelaide let Greenwood go. He always he wasn't really a staple in their team, but whenever I used to watch him for Adelaide, I always thought he had something special. But yeah, both good shouts. Might be mentioned later for me in another award category. Ooh, spicy talk. But two other guys I reckon worth a mention. Dougal Howard, I think he's been pretty elite. The Saints basically, there was a lot of picks in there, but they basically got Howard and Ryder for pick 18. Which I think is a pretty good deal, given the fact that I always think draft picks are a little bit overrated because it's really a lottery of what you're going to get. So I think getting a quality defender and ruckman for pick 18 is pretty handy.
18
and then, sorry, what was that?
It was Georgiadis, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's a win-win.
Yeah. And then Brandon Ellis, he's on nearly a $600K a year, well, before the, pay cuts, but so that's quite a lot of money, but I think he's been pretty handy for the Gold Coast as well. And then in terms of on the other side of the coin, worst pickup, pretty harsh, but I think Louis Taylor, they gave up pick 48 for him, pretty random. He hadn't played for 2 years, and he's only managed to scrape together 6 games this year. I don't think he's had more than 15 touches in any of them. So obviously they probably weren't expecting much from him, but pick 48, given the fact that the Saints got Butler for pick 56, just shows what you can do with draft picks in terms of the trade table. So that's pretty average. Hopefully I'm not stealing anyone's thunder here, but I also think, Rowie, I haven't watched much Saints, so maybe you're a better call on this than me, but you gave up a lot for Bradley Hill.
Yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, what do you think? Also, Tom Cutler, that was just another random one, just picking on myths, but what do you think about Bradley Hill, Rowie? Are you happy with what you paid for him, or do you think he's been an average pickup?
He was I have to say, Brad, he was a very needs-based recruit. We lacked a lot of outside run and just polish with the ball. Obviously, Brad, he hasn't done a massive amount this year yet to suggest his price tag was worth it. But when you look at the times he does have the ball, he has executed some of the best passes I've seen us execute, especially in our inside 50. Obviously, hasn't done that a lot. hasn't shown a lot of his running prowess so far this year. But he was a very needs-based pickup. And in the eyes of a Saints fan, obviously, at the moment, he looks like we spent a bit too much. But I'm still obviously very optimistic. He's still in his first year at a new club, new state. And I think he has obviously suited our new game plan well. It's all going to take a bit of time to adjust, but I think he will come good. Like, he's obviously a quality player. He's playing at the moment, but not what his price tag suggests at the moment, but I think he will come good.
Yeah. Anyone else you want to mention for this category, Rowey?
I'll leave Josh Bruce to Broady. I'm just, a bit of a mention, maybe Adam Tomlinson. He's on a fair bit of money at the D's, and during when they were struggling earlier in the season, I think he was omitted maybe once or twice. So I think that was a bit of I know he was obviously played in GWS's grand final lineup last year, and he's been omitted from what was a poor Melbourne outfit earlier in the year. So he's on a fair bit of money. I think he's on like $500,000. So maybe just spent a bit too much there, the D's. They've obviously got Langdon on the wing, and I don't know who's on the other one, but he's been a bit in and out of the team. So maybe Tomlinson for me.
Yeah, Broady. I reckon let's feed him to the Wolves. Josh Bruce, good luck, mate.
Yes, he was number one on my hit list. I think he's been pretty putrid this year. Doggies gave up pick 32 and 51 for him. I looked through his stats. He's kicked 12 goals this year as a key forward. 6 of them came against North Melbourne, who have been pretty crap all year. So the other 10 games, he's kicked 6 goals. So he's been a good pickup. Well done by St Kilda to get rid of him. That was very well played. I just think he's already 28 years old. He's going to probably get worse from here, and he's just been a real disappointment. And I just thought of it then. Can I put up for best pickup Jack Nunes, because he did win a game and kept our Carlton season alive. So I'm going to put him up as a little bargain buy too.
That's a fair call.
Pilch, have we mentioned all your players or anyone else you want to check?
I've got one more bloke down here. Might be a little bit stiff, but Big Johnny Patton. The Hawks picked him up from GWS, and I know he's gone down injured, which he does have a big injury history. But he, in those three or four games that he did play, he did absolutely nothing. I think he kicked 1 or 2 goals, about 5 touches in each one. So he's definitely been a letdown, because I know a few Hawks fans that were pretty bold on
Curtis.
Yeah,
I don't think they paid too much for him, but I think he was very overhyped coming into the Hawthorn side. But it's a bit stiff judging these pickups after 10 or 11 games. So
it's true.
I'm sure Louis Taylor will come out and win the Brownlow next year, but that's all right. All right, I don't know how you boys want to attack this next one. So, MVP / Brownlow, so you can think about it as in the votes, or you can just think who's been the best player in your eyes. Pilch, who would you like to offer up for this one?
Well, I've got a few names written down just because the obvious one is Lachie Neale, and unless a miracle happens, he's got the Brownlow in his back pocket already. But I'm actually... Obviously, Boak, Steele, Dangerfield, they're probably around the mark. But one of my smokies is Clayton Oliver, who, Cork, you've been doing some stats and you've kind of uncovered that as well. But he's been flying under the radar at the Ds. All the limelight's on Petrarca, and I think Oliver will steal a lot of his votes. And I don't think Petrarca should be the second favourite at the moment because of Oliver and Gawn stealing votes, and they haven't really been winning too many games.
Yeah, fair point. Broady?
I've just gone the obvious. It has to be Lachie Neale. He's had a super season. He's averaging 30 touches and a goal a game. Brisbane have won plenty of games, so he's going to poll plenty of votes. A lot of 3 voters early in the season. And it's going to be a pretty one-way affair on Brownlow night, whenever that is.
Yeah. Also, I think it also helps them. They don't really have, they're obviously a great team, but I don't think they have too many big names who are going to attract the umpires' attention or whatever.
Yeah, I agree.
Jared Lyons maybe being their second best, or Harris Andrews, but I think Neale's going to be copping votes almost every game, especially every win. Rowey?
I've obviously got Neale at 1. Nothing else to say there. I think Petrarca, there is obviously the factor of Gawn and Oliver stealing votes, but I think what you notice when Brayshaw finished third or fourth, the umpires obviously noticed him a lot because of his helmet, and that's a just distinguishing feature. I think Pachaka's just massive bullocking ability to just bulge out of the packs is obviously easily noticed by the umps. He's obviously a noticeable player on the ground. I reckon that'll just be a factor just by no other means than just visual ability by the umps. I think obviously Boki's a good inclusion because I think there's not a massive amount of players to steal votes off him at the power. Obviously, they're a quality side on the top of the ladder, but I think Boke's usually more so at the start of the season being the standout player. So I think if I had the prediction, I reckon it'll be those three at the top.
Yeah, no, all good shouts. As you alluded to, Pilch, I've been doing a bit of a statistical Brownlow, so completely, well, not objective, but like I picked the algorithm sort of, and then since then I've just let it go. So currently it's Neil, Oliver, Cripps, Luke Ryan from Freo, strange, and then Brokey is in at fifth. So that's what I think it is anyway. But obviously there's game discrepancies in there. Some have played 12 and some have played 11, I think. So but on an average vote per game basis, it would be Oliver, and then total votes, it's Neil. So I think Neil's probably got it in the back pocket, as you guys said, but there are a few other guys who are likely to be there or thereabouts. And then in terms of the rising star, this is a tough one, obviously, because we have only had 12 rounds or something. So Matty Rao played pretty good in 5 rounds. So obviously that's not going to get the job done in the total rising star, like at the end of the season. But if we look at it mid-season, he's a sniff. But I think it's a 3-horse race for this one. It just depends how heavily you rate Rao's opening season. But I think it's got to be between Max King and Rankin. But I'd probably go Kingers just because he's played the whole season. But yeah, Rowey, who would you go for this one?
Yeah, I think, I've got Rankin in there as well. Obviously, I think Caleb Sarong's obviously had a good year. I think he attended the most centre bounces for Freo on the weekend. Obviously started a bit later, as did Rankin. So I'm going to maybe say Maxi King. Winks, as he's called at the Saints Footy Club. He's obviously just coming along great strides and lengths. Kicks another 3 on the weekend. Should have been 4 or 5. But yeah, definitely Maxi for me.
Broady?
I think Sarong's a smoky. I've been really impressed with him. On the weekend, he went head-to-head with Cripps a lot of the time in the middle and actually matched it with him. And we all know that Cripps is a bull. So I doubt he'll probably win because often, teams from, say, the West don't get the recognition from the Victorian crowd. But yeah, otherwise, maybe Noah Anderson could win it as well. He was really good last night. And he hasn't been a standout, but he's been consistent. So he's a possible chance as well. I wouldn't count him completely out yet.
Yeah. Pilch?
I think it'll be Max King, and I think he's actually 3rd or 4th favourite on the old sports bet, which is great value, I think. But I'm a big fan of Sarong. I think next year we'll see a Clayton Oliver-esque breakout from Sarong because he's just a stoppage beast. He'll rack up 25 contested handballs every week next year.
Yeah. There's not too many options for that award. I think we've said pretty much everyone who's a chance. When I was doing my Brownlow, I was working out who's eligible. There's so many guys who are 1 or 2 games off eligibility, which is pretty stiff. I think Caulfield has played just a couple too many. Bolter as well from the Tigers.
Yeah,
I think he played 12, and you need to play 10 or less. So he would have been right up there if he was eligible. But yeah, Kingers, Sarong, Rankin, Anderson, they're probably the only guys who could win it, and I rate all of them.
Kingers hasn't even been nominated yet, actually. So I think we're relying on that first, yeah.
Well, have they announced this round yet?
I think it will be him tonight, yeah. They'll announce it tonight.
Good chance.
Anderson played Wells, didn't he, though? Or has he already been nominated? Okay, yeah. Well, there we go. Good from Kingers. And we've already reached the final award, but it's, a bit more than an award. We're going to be naming our All-Australians, so I'm glad we've got some time in the bank because I was a bit worried about how long this episode was going to be. So we probably can go into a little bit more depth than I was expecting. But yeah, we're not going to read out a blurb for every single player while they're in the side because it will go for hours. I reckon we start in the back line. I reckon we just go line by line for this one. So, Rowey, do you want to kick us off? Who's your two back pockets and your fullback?
Well, my back pockets are very tall. I've got Jordan Ridley in the first back pocket. Loved his season. Port captain Tommy Jonas in the other one. I reckon he's still in.
Nah.
Andrews at fullback.
Actually, I reckon we just go the whole defense, but just because my positions are just out of whack. So, who have you got in the second line of defense? Who's your half back line?
Second line of defense. I've just brought him in to this team because I did an Australian team a few weeks ago. Luke Ryan, one of the flanks.
Yeah.
Braden Maynard on the other, always gets the best small, and Sammy Collins at centre half back.
The king. I really rate that. Sammy Collins is the man. Broady, who's your back six?
I've got a few different there. I've got Maynard in a back pocket. Harris Andrews fullback as well. He's a lock. Nick Haynes from the Giants, my other back pocket. He's a star. Takes lots of intercept marks. Very underrated. Then I've gone half back. I've gone Doherty, and then Darcy Moore at centre half back and Sicily on the other half back flank. Ooh. Doherty was my only, but I needed
a couple of guys in there.
He is my only Carlton player, but I needed a running defender in my back line. I was going to have like Ridley or someone, and I'm like, who's actually going to use the ball out of the back line? So
yeah, his name is Darcy Byrne-Jones, mate.
Oh, please.
That's his name. So I'll just roll into my back six. Doherty, I don't mind it, to be honest. I live at home with Doherty. My older brothers known to be a Doherty lookalike. So I know him very well and I rate him. My back six, it varies a lot, actually. I'm surprised how many differences we have. As I said before, I haven't watched too much footy, so like 99% of my selection was based on stats. So I've gone my tall defenders. Actually, I'll go position. Back pocket, Lukey Ryan, absolute star. And then in the other back pocket, I've got three tools, so I'll just chuck one of my tools in there. I'll go Mark Blitzarves in the back pocket. Probably not the most notable name. Well, everyone knows who he is, but like I don't think he'd be in many teams. But Geelong have been the best defense all year, so I think someone from their team, deserves to represent them. So I've got him in the back pocket. Then the half back line, I've gone Darcy Byrne-Jones on one flank, Shane Savage on the other flank. Bit of a strange call.
Hang on,
what? Have I said someone twice, by the way?
No.
Savage just played one game.
Are you sure about Shane?
Wait. Oh, really? Wait, okay,
Savage
that makes sense. But that's my bad. I was going off averages, and I tried to go through to make sure everyone had played matches, like enough matches, but I wasn't finished that. I have to say, I was going to say, how is he so good at, and he's not being talked about? But that makes sense. I'm actually kind of glad because I was a bit worried that I had him in the team. So I've got, so I'll go through it again. My tools are Blitzarves, Collins, and then I've got Haynes as my third tool. Absolute star from the Giants. And then I've got Ryan Byrne-Jones, and then I've gotten Jake Lloyd, actually. Just a bit of usage off the back line. I know he's roasted a lot for his 5-meter kicks and stuff like that, but I'll back him in. Why not? Pilch, who's in your back six?
Yep. So starting from fullback, Ridley in the back pocket, Tommy Jonas at fullback, and Luke Ryan in the other back pocket. Half back line, Braden Maynard, Harris Andrews, centre half back. And then for the final piece, I've gone with Adam Sard, which is a huge smoky, but he's in my Supercoach team, so I've been watching the Bombers very closely, and he's actually a weapon with the ball, and he's averaging career best disposals by a mile. Rarely, like Maynard, rarely loses his one-on-one battles with the opposition small forwards. I think he's criminally underrated. So, yep, Adam Sard for the last halfback flanker.
Do we have any defenders on the bench, lads?
No.
Yes, I do. I've got Nick Haynes on the bench.
Ooh.
That's where he was.
Absolute legend.
Yeah.
Pilch, do you have any backmen on the bench or not?
No, I don't.
All right, fair enough. So I reckon we roll into the guts then. We'll get the big boys out of the way. So who's in your middle six? Well, so including a ruckman, I guess. So yeah, who's in your rucks, your followers, and then the three in the middle? You know what I mean. Pilch, do you want to start us off?
Yep. So there's always the dilemma here whether to pick wingers or not, because most of the time the selectors just put inside midfielders out on the wings. But I've tried to pick wingers, so I've gone with Mitch Duncan on one wing, Josh Kelly on the other wing. I think he's as consistent as ever this year, going under the radar a bit, and in the middle, Lachie Neale.
Yeah, very fair picks there, mate. Broady, what about you?
Across that line, I sort of thought I'll try and pick at least one definite winger, and one's a half sort of winger. So I've gone Gaff from the Eagles, then I've gone Boakey in the middle, and then McRae on the other wing. Wasn't sure about McRae. I know he gets a lot of touches and can get sort of, some people say he doesn't do enough with the ball. But I think just the way he accumulates the ball, he runs both ways all day. I just couldn't leave him out of my side. So I've gone with McRae on the other wing.
Yes. For me, I've gone Duncan as well on one wing, Boakey in the middle, McRae as well on the wing. I think Duncan's had a very underrated season. He hasn't actually made the All-Australian team before and hasn't won a Geelong Best and Fairest. His highest accolade was being in the 2011 Premiership team. I think this year is finally his year to get an All-Australian nomination. I think he's been superb for them in their push up the ladder.
Fair enough. Across that middle line, I've kind of tried to pick players who could play on the wing. I don't even know if they play on the wing, but I've got McRae on one side, Zach Merritt on the other. Probably another guy, as you were talking about, McRae, kind of just kicks it for the sake of kicking it, but we'll get him in there. He gains a lot of meters, has a lot of inside 50s. And then in the middle, I'll go Danger. Don't want him. Got two other guys to sit around the ruckman, so I'll go Danger in the middle. And then in terms of the ruck and the followers, I think I'll go Gorney as my ruckman. That was a pretty tough one, actually. That was tough to pick. There was quite a few in a similar sort of bracket. And then I've gone Neil and Oliver to follow him around the place. So yeah, do you have midfielders on your bench as well? I think I have 3 or something. So
yeah, mine are pretty much all midfielders on the bench.
Yeah, so are mine.
Wait, so what ruckman did everyone pick?
Osh. Yeah, I don't think we said our
okay, well, you go with your ruckman and your followers and Pilch.
Yep. All right, I've gone Nick Nat Nui. This was a tough 3-way, in my opinion, a 3-way race between him, Gawn and Goldie. But I think I'm taking the first use that Nick Nat gives his midfielders over the other two, and then Petrarca and Boak as the followers.
Broady, what about you?
I couldn't agree more with Pilch on Nat Nui. I know he doesn't get as much touches or marks around the grounds, but the way he sets up his midfield, especially from the centre, is like ridiculously good. I mean, they should have like another stat. They should have like clearances and like clean clearances. They just bolt into the middle, kick it down to Kennedy's throat, and kick goals within 10 seconds. So he had to be in my side. And then Neil is an obvious one, and then Petrarca's my other on-baller in the midfield. Petrarca's been a ball all season and deserves to get his first All-Australian.
Rowey.
Yeah, pretty stock standard as well. Nick Nat, I think this is hopefully his year in the ruck. That obviously comes down to whether he plays most of the games. I think West Coast have pretty condensed fixture late in the season with the next footy frenzy, and they're going to be playing final, so they may give him a rest or two. Hopefully it doesn't impact his selection, because I think he's going to be the first choice ruckman. And then Neil, obviously, followed up by Oliver.
Yeah, so all pretty similar there. And then on the bench, my midfielders are I've got Petrarca, and I've gone with Broadbent's man. I've gone to Hugh Greenwood on the pine. Just a bit of size, just a bit of a loose unit. Bring a bit of sauce to the side. What midfielders do you have on your bench, Pilch?
I've gone with Oliver, Jack Steele, Dangerfield is a bit of a mid/resting full forward, and then final spot Hugh McCluggage.
What about you, Rowey? What mid's on the bench?
So I had Haynes on the bench. The other 3 spots are taken up by Danger as well. I think I agree with Pilch there. Jared Lyons from Brisbane. I think he's gone under the radar a bit for All Australian. I think he'll find his way in there. And obviously my boy Jack Steele, hoping he gets in there for his first All Australian.
Broady, what about you, mate?
Yeah, mine's pretty similar. I've got Danger as your mid/forward. Steele, I think he's deserved a spot in the side. And then Oliver and the Bont is my final spot on the bench.
Yeah.
He hasn't been overly consistent, but he's played a handful of games that have been awesome. And I think he deserves to still make it because he uses the ball so well and has a big impact on game. Doesn't get as much touches as the other midfielders, but he is a genuine gun, so I've got to have him.
Yeah. All right. So that brings us to the forward line. We're getting through this pretty rapidly, but I don't mind it. I have to say, the key forwards, it's kind of hard to choose. There was only like 2 or 3 that are doing well, and then everyone else is just absolute myths. So my forward line, across the half-forward line, I've got Butters in one half-forward flank.
Yes.
Big Zachy Butters. If you watch, statistically, he's pretty handy, but not the greatest. But if you watch Port play, I think you'll see he's one of their most pivotal players. Then I've got, who am I sticking centre half forward? We'll go big Charlie Dixon. Why not? And then I've got Butler on the other flank, as we mentioned before, and the best pickup. He's just been awesome. And then the full forward line, we'll stick Tommy Papley in one of the pockets just to kick a few snags for me, get under some skin. Then the Tomahawk at full forward, been electric in the last month or so. I think he's kicked 11 in his last 2. Leads the Coleman, if I'm not mistaken. So you basically got to have the Coleman in, don't you? And then this is a very big pod. Well, it might not be a pod, but it's a very weird call. I've got Matty Taberner to play my third tall. Contested marking beast. I think he's second for contested marks behind Charlie Dixon. And I think he's 5th in the goals. This is in terms of tall forward. So pretty handy player. But the main reason he's in there, I'll be honest, is there weren't too many other options. I was looking at M. King. Obviously, Josh Kennedy's up there for goals and stuff. Even big Levi Casbolt made an entrance into my final 10 for the key forwards. But yeah, I thought I'd back in Matty Taberner. He's been pretty handy in a very low-scoring team. Rowey, who's in your forward 6?
Well, starting on the flanks, I've actually put in Petrarca there because he often finds names in the forward line. So I thought I'd sneak him in there. I've got Dusty on the other flank. I just think he'll find his way in there, to be honest. He's a bit of a love child for the AFL. Charlie, centre half forward. I'm going to go in the pockets, Tom Papley and Danny Butler, my man, with the Tomahawk up front. Tomahawks, I think he's been underrated this year, and he's already having a pretty awesome year. I think he's leading the AFL in goal assists or something like that. He's been awesome. I was also going to try and work in Zach Butters, but one of my workmates, Tyler, has been talking to Zach Butters on Snapchat, and he's a shocking replier and just melts their brains. So, Zach, lift your game, mate. Otherwise, you're not going to find yourself into my All-Australian team.
Top that.
All right, Broady, what about you, mate?
Cool. This was tough because I wasn't sure whether to go 3 big forwards, 3 small forwards. Like, I try to get the balance right, but I've gone Dusty as well on a half-forward flank. I think when he goes forward, he's like one of the most dangerous one-on-one players in the comp. So I think you have to have him in there. Papley on the other flank. and big Charlie Dixon at centre half forward. I'll let Pilch talk about him, but he's been awesome this year. His contested marking, and really it's Dixon or bust for Port Adelaide this year if they want to win it. If he plays well, they're a chance. If he gets taken over, they're no chance, in my opinion. And then I've got Butler in one forward pocket. Tomahawk is the full forward. He has to be in there. And I can't believe you guys have left him out. Charlie Cameron in the other forward pocket. I think he's been he's still the most dangerous small forward in the game. The last couple of weeks, he's been injured and it hasn't been that influential. But his first 8-9 games were amazing, and he generally sends fear into opposition small defenders. So he had to be in the All-Australian side.
I don't know. Charlie Cameron, I left him out. I just feel like in such a high-scoring team, someone's got to kick the goals. So a lot of the time, it's just down to him. And one thing with him is there's not many good small defenders around anymore. So I reckon he plays a kind of a lucky position. I think Robbie Gray is someone who's kind of benefited from that as well in the last 7 or 8 years. But to be fair, Charlie Cameron's very good. He was right up there in the Coleman, I think, in the first 2 months. I think he was leading it.
My argument would be that he's playing in a forward line with Hipwood, McStay, no one that's really that good, and he's still able to kick snags. So
yeah, that's true.
I think he deserves a bit. I will admit that if he keeps the last few weeks of form up, then he probably wouldn't make the end of year one.
Yeah. All right, Pilch.
Yep. So Dusty on one forward flank. Big Charlie at centre half forward. He's by far Port's most important player, as Broady said. Geelong were the first team to completely nullify him, and we lost by 60 points. So that's a telling story there. And then Papley on the other half forward flank, and then full forward line, Butler, Hawkins, and Josh Kennedy.
Yeah, very, very fair picks. And then to round us off, which forwards? I'm saying mine first, all right, boys. Don't roast me. Okay, they are weird choices. They are weird choices. I openly admit this, but I've gone Robbie Gray.
That's unreal.
Just
can't believe
I'll be honest there.
Him actually.
Yeah, and then this is disgusting, but I want a bit of tackle pressure out of all the small forwards in the comp. Medium forwards. He has the most tackles, the most pressure acts. So I've gone my boy from West Adelaide, Will Snelling. Get him in there, lads. I want to be a good team, all right? I want to be a good team. I don't see Dusty Martin chasing down anyone, the lazy prick. So I've got Will Snelling racking in 15 tackles a game. Get him in your Supercoach teams. He'll do a job for you. So that's my bench. Cracking team I've got there. Pilch, which have you? All yours were mids, weren't you?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, all
Do you have
mine
a
were
bench
mids.
left?
I'll just say though, Hammer, I'm glad you're not a selector. Otherwise, there'll be a few unlucky players this year.
Well, I'm looking at this team for the international rules, mate. I want to win the Gaelic footy game.
Well, that's fair enough. Get Kyle McKenna in then.
I tried to pick it with a team with a bit of team balance.
That's fair.
There are a few players. Jack Martin was very close for me. I basically just picked Snelling just as a bit of a gag over Jack Martin. So Martin was the one to miss out. Harris Andrews as well. I would have had him in the team, but I didn't really want to have four tall defenders, and I like Sam Collins, Haynes, and Blitzarves over him. So he was another one who was pretty stiff. Any other guys who just missed out on your sides?
I'll just ask quickly, what
stats
got Robbie Gray onto your bench?
Clearances, contested possessions, and where's his other one? 1%ers. Right up there for all three of those stats.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Actually, Snelling is third in total clearances for any forward. So, just flying under the radar there. Big. Wait, did I say Tom Snelling? It was Will Snelling, I think.
No, you said
but yeah.
Couldn't tell you his name, mate.
Make an appearance through the window. Oh, mate. Just get it. Oh, yeah. Just pick Dusty up, boys. Pick the big names. I see how it is. Pick on the little guys. Yeah, no. Just like all Australian selectors, to be honest. So anyone who was very close to your teams that you want to mention or not really?
I'll start it off. Jack McRae didn't make my team. I think that's a bit stiff. Looking back, I'd probably put him on the pine over McCluggage, but I wanted a winger on the bench, a true winger.
Yeah, fair enough. Broady?
I thought mainly in the defence there was a few unlucky ones.
Yeah.
I was missing like Ridley, and you guys all had Luke Ryan. I mean, also I have to say Wiedering's had a good year. There's been a lot of good defenders, so I thought they were the unlucky ones. I mean, midfielders, I think there actually hasn't been a lot of great midfielders. Like even Dusty, Danger, Fife, Cripps, like your big names haven't had the best years. But yeah, I reckon it'll be interesting this side compared to the end of the year, because I think some of those bigger names will start to rise up the last 6 weeks of the season, and they'll probably make their way in when the whips are cracking.
Yeah. Rowey?
Yeah, it is worth noting, first bloke I had in my stiff category was Charlie Cameron. He was very, very close. Sicily was also stiff for me, but it was more so the fact that he's not going to make it because of his knee. I think Menegola was a decent shout as well. I think he's had a pretty good season for Cats and has contributed well to their rise. Obviously, Gawn and Goldie are pretty stiff as well. And yeah, I've liked McCluggage this season. I really rate him as a player, but maybe just 1 or 2 years off. He needs to bloody learn how to kick as well, in terms of set shots and just kicking at goals, because he's horrendous. Apart from that, he's a gun. And yeah, I think Canelio has also been good for Giants, trying to lift them in certain patches of games. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with my team.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. I found issues with, I didn't know how much to take into account their team's performance, because you always hear people saying like the minor premier should have like 5 or 6 players, stuff like that. And then also I wasn't sure, I took this into account a little bit, but if you're a defender, does your defense have to be good for you to be in there? Because like I think the Bombers have one of the worst defenses. I think the Hawks are pretty average. The Blues are pretty average as well. So that kind of hurt Wiedering, Sicily and Ridley's case for me. So yeah, I don't really know how much to take those things into account, because then you can argue like, should Dixon and Hawkins be handicapped because they're in good attacking teams? So yeah, I don't know. It's hard to take that one to account, but it's going to be interesting to see how many Port players make the team, I reckon, because if they're in the top 2, they would probably normally have 4 or 5 players in there. But I'll be honest, they don't have too many big names, Port, that are automatic locks. I think Dixon is probably the only guy that's a certainty at the moment. I think Broke was in most of your teams, but apart from that, it's going to be interesting to see who they pick. Could be the least amount of selections for the minor premiers of all time if they do come first.
I'll say 2 things there. There's no way we're finishing top 2. I'll put that one out. I've got no faith, but I think we're pretty even across the board. So I wouldn't be surprised if only 1 or 2 make it by the end of the year.
Well, realistically, like Butters and Gray aren't making it. So
nah, I think Dixon and Boak will make it, and that'll probably.
Yeah, Jonas is a chance.
Yeah.
But yeah, Burn Jones, Butters, Gray, none of them are making it. So
no.
It's pretty stiff, but oh well. I guess I only had 1 Brisbane player, so can't really just look at it that way. But as we sign off, boys, I reckon we get a premiership prediction. So who's going to win the grand final from each of you? Pilch, who are you backing in at the moment?
Well, I think
he wants to do it.
No, I'm definitely not saying Port. I mean, it's going to depend on where the games are played for me. If West Coast get 4 games in Perth, then I'd say them. But all else being equal, I'm going to say Richmond.
Ooh, interesting. Broady?
It's tough. I think it's one of West Coast, Geelong, or Richmond. They're the teams I trust. Like, I don't know about Brisbane and Port and stuff. I just don't know. I don't know if they've got the experience and the big name players to get it done when it really matters. But I think maybe Geelong. Maybe it'll be Geelong's year.
Rowey, what about you, mate?
Yeah, I think it's down to those three as well. I'm not completely sold on Port, no offense, but you've only beaten one. I think was it like one or two teams, and it was when it was West Coast when they were at their absolute low. I think, I don't have a massive amount of faith in Brisbane as well, considering they nearly got beaten by North on the weekend. I actually did a lighter prediction this morning, so my predictions were fairly. I didn't have to think about them too much right now. I had Geelong and West Coast in the grand final. Richmond just missing out. I don't like Richmond. I just think Lynch and Arts are flogs from last night for whacking. I'm going to say it's a line ball call between Geelong and West Coast. I'm going to have to say I actually might say Geelong.
Yeah, I rate it. I would like to see Geelong win. I like their team for some reason. I don't know why. Classy look with the white socks, I've always thought. White just gives off elegance for some reason. But I'll go West Coast because I reckon the grand final will be in Perth. So I'll go West Coast over Geelong in the final. Obviously a lot of ifs there. But thanks for joining me today, boys. I've enjoyed this episode, enjoyed the research, enjoyed including Shane Savage based off one game. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for putting up with my lack of knowledge, and enjoy the rest of your week. Also, obviously she's not going to listen to this, but it's Rowey's girlfriend's birthday, so happy birthday to Ella. But I'm not sure why she'd get to the 52nd minute of a AFL podcast. But no,
so it's Dan Butler's best
pickup. All right, see you, boys.
See you, mate. Thanks for having us.
Pleasure.
Go the Blues.
Go the Power.